investigative powers and enjoyed none of the resources of the police. Unsurprisingly, he was unable to make any progress. The family's legal team placed on record that political interference in the work of the NPA brought a halt to the investigation of the TRC cases between 2003 and 2010, when both the Directorate of Special Operations and the SAPS refused to investigate the cases, even though they concerned the most serious crimes involving murders and massacres. Indeed, the court was informed that the families of the Highgate victims, along with other victims of apartheid-era crimes, have recently initiated litigation against the South African government, seeking constitutional damages and an inquiry into the systemic suppression of these cases. Correspondence featuring in this litigation was put up, confirming that the NPA was denied investigative support during this period. M. Narratives. Since nobody applied for amnesty for the Highgate massacre, and no one with real inside information has come forward, there are no identifiable individual suspects in this matter. What is left are several narratives or theories that might serve to explain the Highgate massacre. However, there is no hard evidence to sustain any of these narratives. Louise Flanagan, in her report, Attack on the Highgate Hotel, the Eastern Cape Context, notes, I quote, "Highgate was not an armed robbery. There doesn't appear to be any evidence that this attack targeted an individual over a personal grievance. This attack appears to be political violence, carried out at a time when political violence was being used to whip up support for certain groups, encourage fear, and encourage anger towards other groups during a crucial time of negotiations and transition." Close quote. The court had the benefit of hearing the expert evidence of Brigadier Marion, who explored 5 possible narratives. One was the APLA narrative. This originated on the night of the massacre, according to the investigation diary entry at 23:30 on 1 May 1993. The press ran sketches nationwide with a 150,000 rand reward authorized by Major General Highgate and Minister Ernest Kriel, attributing the attack to APLA. Some 64 persons connected to APLA and the ANC were questioned, with fingerprints and palm prints checked. Several were arrested, and at least one, Mtutuzeli Mama, was formally charged, though charges were later withdrawn. Marion noted Flanagan's research showing the South African police raided PAC homes and offices nationwide on 25 May 1993, arresting 81 PAC members and seizing documents. Despite these raids occurring weeks after Highgate, there did not appear to be anything uncovered linking APLA to the Highgate massacre. Large numbers of PAC APLA files seized during the 1995 SADF raids in Umtata and Lesotho similarly revealed no Highgate connection. APLA Commander Mpashlele commented on the absence of evidence in these files. Marion quoted Flanagan's critical observation. Open quote, "If this attack was carried out by an APLA unit, what happened to those involved? Why did they not claim amnesty as for similar attacks?" Close quote. The standard APLA practice involved geographically separate groups knowing of operations. However, it is the operational unit and commanders who would claim media responsibility. Marion concluded that in his view, the investigation pertaining to APLA had been thoroughly conducted, with APLA command categorically denying involvement. He noted APLA claimed responsibility for 36 of 64 attacks listed in Robert John Tyrrell's report. Thus, suspects' particulars, fingerprints, and weapons from other attacks should have been linked to this attack by now, at least by way of the palm prints and ballistic evidence. However, he acknowledged that the possibility cannot be ruled out that renegade APLA operatives committed the attack and kept quiet and did not apply for amnesty, though this remains in the realm of conjecture or speculation. The second one was the hammer unit narrative. This theory emerged during Elsa's private investigation in 2006, when he told Neville Belling that a third force called the hammer unit was involved. At the Kenway Hotel meeting on 28 November 2006 in East London, with survivors and Mslele, Els stated that the attackers were not APLA, listing multiple inconsistencies, namely, attackers wore black or dark blue, used AK-47s, hand grenades and tear gas, which APLA did not. APLA used R1s, R4s and R5s, as they could not get AK-47 ammunition. Withdrawal under tear gas was a first. Some attackers had black camouflage paint suggesting they were white. No vehicles were reported stolen or hijacked before the attack, unlike typical APLA operations. Attackers showed greater training and shooting accuracy than in APLA incidents. AK-47s were never linked ballistically before or after, suggesting they were used specifically for that attack and destroyed. And police received no intelligence reports on Highgate. Unlike other attacks, no relevant documentation existed in the seized APLA files. The further narrative was the disgruntled patrons narrative. This narrative arose from multiple incidents on 1 May 1993, where black patrons experienced discrimination at the Highgate. The bar lady served cigarettes to two black males around 10 o'clock in the morning, but told them they were out of stock for beer. Marion noted that it was highly unlikely that the Highgate would have actually run out of beer. One of the persons at the hotel, Arno, told a black male who was using the public payphone that the phone was not a public phone and that there was a public phone down the road. The black male ignored him and continued using the phone. Eventually, he, that is Arno, ordered them to leave the premises. They left the premises and drove off in a blue and white Toyota or Mazda bakkie with a white canopy in the direction of Summer Pride. Claassen furthermore observed two black men enter the men's bar at 11:25 in the morning, with one grinning at him before they left after a hand gesture from the barman Gonchi. Marion noted this narrative suggested aggrieved patrons may have returned that night to exact vengeance against the white patrons and staff. This narrative, however, carries a low likelihood. Further narrative was the Askari narrative. Marion provided extensive detail on the Askari narrative, which Flanagan's research suggested as particularly compelling. Askaris were turned liberation movement members who underwent military training outside South Africa, who were arrested on return and either turned by the security branch's C1 unit or voluntarily became informers. They were trained in the use of Eastern Bloc weapons, including AK-47 rifles, Tokarev and Makarov pistols, limpet mines, Soviet F1 hand grenades and RDG-5 anti-personnel fragmentation grenades, matching Highgate evidence. The East London Askari unit was established in the late 1980s, likely between 1987 and 1988, under Eugene de Kock's overall Vlakplaas command. They initially rented a farm in the Summer Pride area, near the Johnson & Johnson factory, and possibly on the Thornycroft Road, less than 5 kilometers from the Highgate Hotel, before moving to Greenfields in mid-1992. The unit grew from about 10 members in 1989 to a larger group by April 1993. Eugene de Kock's amnesty testimony confirmed that he supplied Eastern Bloc weapons to East London operatives under Captain Willie de Langer's command, stating weapons were, open quote, for clandestine covert operations which would have led to the death or injury of the enemy, close quote, and would, open quote, leave the impression that the security police could not be connected it would point in the wrong direction, close quote. Eugene de Kock testified he provided, open quote, 4 AK-47 assault rifles with magazines and 16 hand grenades, close quote, to East London operatives. Alfred Benjamin Ben Bambata's affidavit to Minister Sidney Mufamadi confirmed Askaris received extensive firearms training at locations including West Bank Prison, shooting range, and Mooi Plaas security branch training area with specialized task force training. Bambata referenced planting weapons, including F1 hand grenades at crime scenes. The unit's operations included murders rather than arrests, planting weapons to justify killings, executing alleged guerrillas following abduction, and effecting the disappearance of targets intending to join exiled movements. Crucially, the Askari units were closed down at the end of April 1993, with Askaris being paid out just days before the Highgate attack. The SAPS payout list, Exhibit CRMC2, revealed significant discrepancies. Black Askaris received between 27 and 476,000 rand, most around 150,000 rand, while white supervising officers received substantially more. PJ van Dijk received 796,525.73 rand. EA de Kock, Eugene de Kock, received 1,001,444.46 rand, and J.S. Vermeulen received 1,02929.93 rand. Marion noted that it is not known whether the discrepancy was known to the Askaris, but as suggested by Flanagan, the abrupt dismissal could have prompted some or a few of the Askaris to attack the Highgate Hotel with weapons at their disposal as an act of reprisal for their poor treatment. Flanagan identified 4 crucial aspects. Askaris knew the Summer Pride area well enough to identify escape routes. They likely knew Highgate was a police hangout where senior officers frequented. They had police weapons training, including from special task force trainers, and they had access to unaccounted for weapons provided by Eugene de Kock. Captain Peterson's investigations traced and interviewed 3 Askaris, Fokasi, Olifant, and Twala, all of whom denied involvement. Further narrative was the false flag narrative. Marion contextualized this narrative within the fragile 1993 transition period, when the Transitional Executive Council announced elections for 27 April 1994. He testified, political violence was often used to try to sabotage the negotiation process, polarize communities, and erode trust. The Highgate massacre might not be an isolated and seemingly random attack, but rather part of a broader scheme orchestrated by those aiming to manipulate the fragile political climate. He detailed how false flag operations are designed to appear as though they were perpetrated by an entity other than the group actually responsible, calculated to generate sympathy for the attacked group and justify retaliatory operations. The TRC found the South African state responsible for various false flag operations, including arranging Eastern Bloc weapons caches to justify attacks on Botswana in 1988, bomb explosions at Joubert Park and J.G. Strydom Hospital in 1989, attacks on the SAP Flying Squad headquarters using AK-47s and RDG-5 grenades in 1989, planting arms at Kanya House and Kosato buildings, and various bombings of railway stations and power plants. The day after Highgate, both the ANC and the Democratic Party suggested it was carried out by those wanting negotiations to fail. ANC border official Nkabisi Bata stated that some people in the right wing are trying to whip up emotions, and some in the South African security forces who are trying to mobilize whites against negotiations. Democratic Party MP Andre de Wet also said something to the effect of, open quote, "I'm personally not convinced it's APLA. As we move closer to an interim government and joint control of the security forces, such attacks will continue and escalate," close quote. Flanagan's research revealed a covert SADF-SAP group operated in the Eastern Cape, led by the SADF officer Anton Nieuwoud, with access to weapons from Eugene de Kock, suggesting renegade elements might have carried out Highgate as a false flag operation to instigate right-wing backlash and derail democracy. As already indicated, an in-depth account of the witnesses' testimonies, which contain the overview that I've just given, appears more fully from the summary of the evidence which is annexed to this judgment, Map A, which must be regarded as having been incorporated herein. Conclusion: even though the Highgate attack counts among the most devastating incidents of its nature at the time, we are nowhere closer to complete answers more than 30 years later. The attack was meticulously planned and callously executed with the precision of highly trained operatives. Its consequences were lethal, having virtually destroyed the lives of the many affected parties who are left without any real redress. Its sheer wickedness is beyond comprehension. It is disconcerting in the extreme and an utter travesty, if not a disgrace, that so little effort has been made right from the inception to properly deal with this matter. The many examples of bungling, lapses, failures, and neglect in dealing with the matter are fully documented in this judgment. This includes improperly investigated crime scenes, failure to lift fingerprints from cartridges and grenade levers, missing elimination prints, lost ballistic and fingerprint evidence, incomplete statements linking photo parades, dormancy of the docket for over 11 years, and unexplained lengthy investigative delays showing a complete lack of urgency. This state of affairs is simply shameful, and the main reason why this matter has seemingly landed in a dead end. I agree with Brigadier Marion that the investigation was grossly substandard. And but for these blunders, the investigation may have solved this brutal crime